Okay, so mine's going live right now, but it says rotate your device. You can't turn your phone while live. Okay. So it says
It must
live.
mean it's got to go up this way.
Oh, you think? Okay,
Yeah.
What it's saying is that when it starts, you can't turn it again if she wants to. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
it's saying, it's just giving you a warning saying if you keep your phone like this now, this is how it's going to start.
Right,
So
so
if you want to switch it, you can't
So
switch.
just
You have
give
to
us
do it
1
before.
second, everybody.
That's what
We're
it's
just
saying.
having a little technical difficulties with our other phone. We'll be online shortly, and we appreciate you all coming today from the Freedom Movement, Big Bear. So just 1 minute, be patient, and we'll be online.
Okay, we are live.
All right, good.
All right, yay! All right.
Freedom.
So we're back. This is Nisha from Real People's Media. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're doing a live broadcast here with the people who traveled to Ottawa to come and join the Freedom Convoy 2022, also known as
The Freedom Movement.
So I'm gonna be co-hosting this live feed with Audrey Redman, and then we can introduce our speaker guests and take it from there.
Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks since the convoy was put to a stop, and you have all come from a distance. Maybe you can start with introducing yourself and telling us, first of all, what you thought of the COVID pandemic before you decided to go on the convoy, and what brought you to that decision. And introduce yourself.
I'm Desmond. I'm from Hamilton. One of the reasons why I came up to the convoy was from even before COVID started. I was aware that a lot of stuff that they keep telling us from a long time was crap. So when COVID came up, it just made it stronger.
Why did you decide that it was crap?
Well, I've been away for 25 years. You know, we have all known that a lot of the stuff that government tells us is not true. Okay, let me just, this will seal it up for you. I'm a reggae artist. My first song I released in April 2020 was called Killer Vaccine. April 2020. And I wrote it March 2020.
So you had that
Yes.
something that you
Wasn't right.
didn't trust.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And because I don't watch TV, I don't watch mainstream media, I search other sources for my information because I know for years mainstream media has never given us the right information.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And so that inspired you to go with the convoy?
Yeah, that inspired me to come to Ottawa to if I could get my voice heard as well too, or support, because it's all about numbers and support. If we can support each other, it's stronger. And most people don't like when you are don't like the numbers, especially when you're working together. Mm-hmm. We know people in power don't like it, and I've met new friends that I love. I can say I love them because I felt the hearts when I came here. The first night I came, I felt hearts.
There you go.
I felt hearts. And we've never seen it before. Mm-hmm. You know, when it's asked, how do you explain it? I said, it's better than 1,000 Canada days. Mm-hmm. That's how I explain it.
Mm.
How about you, Big Bear?
So, Colin Big Bear Ross, from the Métis Nation, grew up in southern Alberta, residing in British Columbia. I was on my way to British Columbia back home when the convoy started. And I was literally talking about this 2 weeks before, about organizing groups across Canada to show up on Parliament Hill because they've been attacking our homes for the last 2 years. And I said, now is the time we show up at their house, you know, and we tell them this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. You know, this goes so much deeper than we can possibly imagine with the whole COVID thing. Mm-hmm. I knew it was wrong from the beginning. I was very awake to all the government corruption, the World Economic Forum, you know, this great reset. In the beginning, you know, I was being very respectful to people wanting to wear masks and elderly. And then, you know, when they started firing people for not getting the vaccine, you know, like, these are people trying to put food on their tables, and they're firing perfectly good nurses and doctors who have been on the front lines for 2 years. You know, and those are the kinds of signs that came to me that this is so wrong. So I work with people with addictions. I do life coaching, spiritual healing, and I noticed a spike in the people I work with. I noticed that suicide rates were through the roof. Mental health was through the roof. I noticed, you know, addiction, overdose was through the roof. All these things, right? And it just set off all these alarm bells. Like, what is going on here? Nobody's dying from COVID, but, you know, it's like a friggin' 50% rise in mental health, suicide, and addiction overdose. Like, what's going on here, right? So that's really, you know, that was my calling, because I was having little breakdowns trying to help people. I thought, man, am I the only person strong enough right now to help people? You know, where's the others? Where's our help? Where's our government? You know,
Did you come by yourself?
Yeah, so I came with other friends from British Columbia. There was a group of us that came out. We followed behind the convoy from BC, and it's been absolutely amazing. Like, I've made friends for life here. This is our soul family. This is the Great Awakening. You know, I like to call it the Great Gathering, you know, of like-minded people. And we're just showing love, and we're showing that we're not going to put up with the corruption in the government. We know their plan, and it's an evil plan, and we're here to stay. We're here to hold our ground.
Well, you might have to explain that evil plan one time, but
I would love to explain the evil plan, but let's get off to the introduction.
Yes.
okay.
My name is Patricia, and I traveled from Prince George, British Columbia, so that's Lake Tenay territory. And I am a Takla Nation member, so I actually came here to Ottawa with my daughter, Jacqueline. And I learned a lot about the whole COVID pandemic, like a lot of the vaccine injuries and things like that from my 2 teenage kids, and that's how all of my research started to come along, and I started to take a look, like I took a little bit of a deep dive looking into the research of the vaccines. And then also the other thing that really motivated me to be here was a lot about what Colin was talking about, people getting fired from their jobs, which to me is unjust. And I spent a good part of my career, like I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in education, I've worked in the court system, so I've done a lot of advocacy work in my life. And those were red flags. So for me to see like nurses and, you know, people that were my friends being let go from their jobs because they chose not to participate in that medical decision. And so when I saw that happening, you know, like I was like, okay, something's not right here.
Did you hear of any reasons why? I was thinking of the students when you mentioned the students, and now you're mentioning the other nurses. Did you hear certain things that they said that affected you and your decision making?
I have. I've heard, like everybody's got their own story and everybody's got their own reasons, right? Which I can respect. And, but a big part of it was because, the biggest reason was because it's still defined as a experimental vaccine, right? So it still hasn't completed its clinical trial. And so that was one of the biggest things that the majority of healthcare workers talked about. And then the other thing was that people were disclosing personal medical information. And so when there's no bodily autonomy or right to that autonomy, that was also another big, huge concern for me, because I believe that people have a right to their own body and their own choices. And for me, that was one of the biggest things. And as an Indigenous woman, and having done a lot of advocacy work and working with people who've been harmed in their life, that was another reason, because I've talked with a lot of elders who did not want to get the vaccine, but felt forced to get the vaccine because their family wanted them to get it, or they were being pressured. And then I also heard stories about people being paid to go and get this vaccine. There's been a lot of bullying. So there's been a lot of disharmony in our communities. And for me, that was really, it hurts a lot to witness and see that. In addition to closed healthcare clinics, closed hospitals, closed medical offices where people couldn't get the help and the support that they needed. And I've had family members die out in the street, including my own sister. And, this, in a couple of weeks here, it's going to be a year now since my sister has passed. And in my own community, we've had many people who have died because they couldn't get access to the clinic. They couldn't access the hospital because they were too afraid to go in and have a conversation with a nurse or a doctor because they didn't want to be pressured into getting the vaccine. And I've talked with a number, because there's a group of us that will go out and help the homeless and serve the homeless. And so we ended up having conversations with them, and it was really concerning. And I've heard it even here on this side of the country where the homeless were being paid and being offered $30 to go and get a vaccine. And so if we have to pay people to go and get something that works, then my flag was up.
Yes.
But in any case, I'm also talking. And then I also want Bonnie to introduce herself. Okay. Those are just some of the reasons. There's so many more reasons why I participated in this. And once I got here to Ottawa, I learned so much more about things like politics. I learned so much more about the history and the genocide of Indigenous people straight across Canada. I've also been able to experience the love that Desi and Colin are talking about. And, that vibration of love was so high. And it was
So amazing.
intense. I'm getting shivers just thinking about it. My hair is standing up.
Yeah.
And and to be in the company of so many people that are like-minded and so many people that are running on that vibration of love was just it was the most beautiful, intense, wonderful feeling ever. And and I want everybody to experience that. And as Indigenous people, or as humans in general, we want people to experience love. We want to be living in joy and in happiness, and we want to live in safety and security, and we all want to have those things to be independent, right? And and a lot of what Colin was talking about with people getting fired and losing their jobs, and having worked in advocacy, our whole goal is to prevent people from, furthering themselves and, being in poverty. We don't want people to be living in poverty. We don't want people to lose their homes, their income. We don't want them to lose their children or to have any of our children go hungry. As an Indigenous woman, as a First Nations woman, I've lived in poverty. I've experienced racism. I've experienced discrimination. I've had violence imposed on me from childhood on upwards, from day school, residential school, and people ask, how are these connected? A lot of it, I see a lot of connections. I see a lot of connections from day school to where we're at now with the vaccine, and how government influences and impacts our communities. And it's not just Indigenous communities. There's also a lot of the Black communities that we're also talking about how the vaccines have impacted them as well. Down in New York City, for example, there was a group of Black women that gave this amazing Zoom conversation talking about the vaccine and how it influenced their community and the history with Anthony Fauci and Bill and Melinda Gates. And I started, drawing those conclusions together, and it was just so, I don't know.
There's so much to be said about this situation. The list goes on for days.
We're holding back. I think we're holding back a little too.
Yeah.
As soon as we get warm, I think we're gonna let out hard.
Yeah.
I've been holding back.
Yeah.
Well, the mountain is getting I'm seeing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Bonnie. I come from Hamilton in Southern Ontario. The reason why, I'm not going to say the reason, because the thing is there are hundreds of reasons why we are all here. Honestly, it's been a crazy journey, even like these past couple years, seeing like all just the division alone just breaks my heart. And the fact that like even that's been being used even more to divide us like during the convoy, and like, you know, calling us names like, oh, white supremacists and neo-Nazis and racists and all that stuff. Like, it's just like, it just goes to show you, like, it doesn't matter what you do, they're never going to stop, and that's the plan from day one, is just to keep us divided, keep us away from each other. Like, we're not supposed to be hanging out because I'm black and you're not black, you know what I mean? You're a man and you're a woman, one's supposed to be better than the other. Like, no one understands that we all have our place in this world. It's not about like who's better and who's supposed to be in the top position. There's no top position. We're all here for a reason. There's a position for everybody, right? And even being here in Ottawa, you see that. Like, you don't feel any sort of competition with anyone in any way. You don't feel unsafe. The only thing you feel is love. And if you've never felt love in your life before, I promise you, you walk there and you feel it. There are people that come there and they're like, you know, like, I don't know my parents, I don't really have a family, I'm not in my home country, and I'm here and I'm crying, I feel loved, and, you know, and a woman came up to me, a Russian woman, and she was crying on my shoulders, telling me, like, she's so happy that we're doing this because she saw that this country was going in the direction of her country, and she fled from that, only to come here and see that that's basically happening again. And a woman from China said the same thing, you know what I mean? And it's very hard when someone is sharing that experience with you and you know they've lived it, and it's like they're reliving it again. And we're here, we're so privileged, we live in a country we don't have really much struggles, you know what I mean? And we don't understand how bad it can truly get because we don't experience it. So
well, that is because you've been here for a certain length of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And like Patricia said, you know, for Native people, it has happened before.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
a totally different. It's a totally different situation on the reserve.
For new Canadians.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to talk about next, because that was such a big part of what happened there was the conflict that came in. And you know, you talk about the love, which I experienced as well when I was there. But I also experienced, I'm sure that like you did, the conflict and the hatred that came from opposition to, you know, to the truckers. So you were among them for all that time. And they were accused of racism and all kinds of violence even. So tell me about what, where you think that comes from.
The media, 100%.
And how you dealt with it.
You're a brother.
Well, most division from time has always been mainstream media. When they want to push a narrative, if they want to push a war, it's mainstream media. And I hope one day most people will wake up and understand that this is the worst thing for them, is mainstream media. Because when you start to understand that this is what's programming your mind for what they want, then you won't wake up.
Why do you think that is?
Mainstream media is the school for evil people. Okay, put it this way.
But you're
Yes.
You're from Jamaica, or
Yes, originally from Jamaica. Yes.
so if you think about where you're from, that island,
Right.
who came there and invaded your island?
Christopher Columbus. The same thing. The same person who invaded.
And the British.
And the British. Yes.
So it's a colony.
Yes.
So when you think of that, it has its everything. It's a corporation.
It is a corporation.
I
So
don't mean to
it's-
give you the
it's-
answer, but CBC
Yes.
is a corporation,
Yes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's owned by Canada.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Canada has its agenda
100%.
within its politics.
Absolutely.
Exactly so.
So there's certain similarities that you've experienced in your land, in your islands, that have been experienced here,
Yes.
have been experienced all over the world.
All over the world.
So we're talking about something here that's far deeper.
It is deeper. Because if you listen to, I'm not sure you've ever seen the comparison, but there's a comparison out there where you'll have 100 or 200 media stations saying the same lines. So how could 200 or plus media stations get the same line if it's not coming from one?
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be streaming down from one.
Right.
That means they're trying to get us all to think in a specific way. And if they can get you to think a specific way, they can get you to act in a specific way.
Right, which we have. We can see nationally,
That's right.
worldwide.
That's right.
And when it comes to Big Bear here, you had, conflict and opposition from other Native people through it. And so we heard through Pat King, he went through what he went through. It was posted.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of, steps along the way of, I would say, not just division, but real opposition and bringing it with such force.
I just want to say something very quickly. I have never very much felt a lot of discrimination or racism growing up. I grew up in a very white community, but I'm Métis, so I'm part white, part Indigenous. The amount of hate that I got from showing up and standing up for my country in a loving way, it really hurt. It really hurt a lot. I was getting racist comments from, left-wing extremists, and people even told me they were going to shoot me, and, they were calling me, the white Indian, and you're not Indian, or you're not Indigenous, and it was just like, what is going on here? And you're right, it comes down to the propaganda machine, okay? And it comes down to a much, bigger topic. This is the 13 families, okay, that run the world, okay? This is a sex cult, child sacrifice cult. They have the money, they run the radios, the TV, the newspaper, absolutely everything. It's almost disgusting how much we've had to hear COVID for the last 2 years. They came up with a plan to use a global pandemic so they could use all the loopholes in our government to infiltrate into our systems, use fear as a way for us to use us to motivate us to do exactly what people have done.
Why?
Because,
the question is
why is the big question. Well, it's a genocide on humanity, that's why. This is a genocide on humanity, okay? This is a cult, an evil cult that we're fighting against. And they are very scared because we are becoming spiritually awakened right now. And that's a threat to this cult, right?
How can the average Canadian put their brain around that one and try to make some kind of sense when they haven't even come to terms with the systems that we're living in?
Well, we have to hold space for those Canadians because they're still hypnotized right now, and we need to educate people in a loving way. We have to educate. That's the way forward. This is an information war that we're in right now of truth, and the way that we've done that here in Ottawa. Well, you have the mainstream media, but guess what? I became a media outlet during this entire convoy in Ottawa, and my videos have gone around the world, and that's because we're just speaking truth. We're showing the facts, right? We're not trying to put a spin on it. We're just showing this is what happened. We're giving people real life updates. It's like a truth reality show, and literally we've all become the media. We've had to become the media. That's the only way we're able to get people the truth.
And you've been right in the thick of it when it came right down to it, with the horses and everything.
I was on the front lines for both days. The police beat me up the second day. They pepper sprayed me twice. They billy clubbed me. I watched the Mohawk woman. She was about 10 feet away from me when she got ran over by the horse. When that happened, my heart sank inside of me. I was thinking, what peace-loving nation not only brings armed police, armed, tactical military guys. They had AR-15s. They had everything from tear gas to pepper spray to billy clubs.
Tanks.
They all had guns. Yeah, they had a mobile tank against peaceful Canadian protesters. Just literally, they're just protesting their constitutional right to protest peacefully.
What did it feel like right down there face to face with all that?
I had no fear at all during that entire thing. I knew I was standing on the right side of history. I knew I had love in my heart. I didn't care what happened to me. Honestly, I would have died on that hill.
What did you feel from around the other people all around you?
Man, they were standing so strong, There was I remember old grannies walking up next to me, and I'm a big guy, and I'm standing on the front line, and old grannies coming and swearing at these police officers like, shame on you, if I was your mother, I would spank the shit out of you, and it was like, it was just a sense of pride, and it was so amazing to see people stand up for what's right.
Yeah, well, that's great to come out of it. How about you, Patricia? Well, what kind of conflict have you noticed, especially from Native people?
For me, a lot of it came not directly at me. So I experienced a lot of like passive aggressive comments. So, and then also the conversations came from other people as gossip, and then it would come back to me. And I was angry at first, and then I was hurt, and I went through like all of the emotions, but and I was like, well, suck it up,
Yeah.
I came here because I wanted to bring awareness, and and I wanted people to have these conversations, whether it was negative or if it was positive. But for the most part, like for my own self, I didn't have anything like directly said to me. I have a really supportive group of family and friends, and so the people that did say things are people that I don't normally talk with or hang out with. I think I have amazing friends and family who support the things that I do and support the things that I say, so I feel really fortunate. And for those that didn't support me or support this convoy, just largely stayed silent and and had their own conversations, and I didn't get like a whole lot of like hate comments from anybody, but those few times that people did make a comment in regards to like kind of laughing at me, oh, she's following a bunch of Nazis, she's following a bunch of neo-Nazis, and and obviously like there's something inside of me that wanted to check that information and check to see if it was true, right? And so that was the first thing that I did when I got here. The next day I went to all of the trucks and I took snapshots and images. And I wasn't as lucky as these guys because my lives wouldn't go through. So mine were like shut down right away. Yeah, I know. So I was getting frustrated because I wanted to share that information back home because there's only a handful of us from northern BC that came here. And so what ended up happening is when I would have conversations with people at home, they would say that they're not getting the right information. And so the day that this guy was getting beat, when he was getting billy clubbed, I wasn't allowed to go to Parliament. And so like the people that were with me, they were like, no, you need to stay at the hotel room, you've got your daughter here, you can't afford to get arrested, and you need to keep yourself safe. And so I was just pretty much directed by everybody that I needed to stay home, or at the hotel, so that's what I did. And so I ended up spending that time looking at the news and kind of telling people back home that what they're seeing on the news is not in alignment with what's happening at Parliament. So some of the footage that they got, like at the Nordstrom, is it Nordstrom? Is it called Nordstrom?
The store.
The store.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not that fancy. So.
Neither am
I don't shop there. But in any case, like that section of where they were shooting at the Nordstrom, like there were no protesters largely in that section.
Yeah.
Right? And so they had all of the police lined up, like row by row.
By the mall.
Right by the
Okay,
mall,
yeah,
like
yeah,
near
yeah.
Rideau, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because the Nordstrom would be here,
Yep.
and then we're like considerably
Way back there.
here
And beyond.
and
yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
And so I was letting people at home know that, that what the news is showing is not what is actually
Yeah.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that everybody back home in BC was super appreciative of the feedback and the lives that I was sharing from other people that were able to have live coverage from their cell phones, because I wasn't able to, because mine was shut down, and it was just like you cannot go live. Your account is restricted. Only you can see this. So and you talked about the censorship
Oh yes.
and
yes,
the
we get censored,
propaganda
yes.
that's going out there, right?
Yes, we get censored.
All my social media accounts have been censored because I've been putting out so much content.
Like,
Literally, they blocked, like I have 4 accounts now on social media, and one gets knocked down, I just jump on the next. Right? That's what you have to do when you have, fascists running the, these social media platforms, right? It's all about control.
Yep.
And what really, I was just thinking about something that really disgusted me is some of the police got a kick about beating us
Oh,
up.
yeah.
You could really see it in
The smug
their eyes.
smiles.
It was about 50-50. Half the police didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
You could tell it was
Yeah.
shameful for them.
Yeah.
You could see in their eyes that they were sad. But some of the police really played in to the opportunity to beat on people. I seen an old grandma got beat on. I seen one guy, he got beat with the end of a gun. Like that, there was like a military man, and he was beating this guy as hard as he could with the butt of his gun. And it's just like,
They were targeting people.
and we
too,
and the one thing that happened, which I can be so proud of my fellow Canadians. Not one person out of the thousands attacked one police officer.
Yeah.
And that right there is a miracle in itself, because it took a lot of restraint for us not to attack, because when someone's attacking you, you have the right to defend yourself, so.
Well, I think that that's the natural instinct, though, to want to protect yourself
Yeah.
and protect the people that you care about.
But I see that's why I think a lot of people are trying to pretend that they don't know what's going on. Because naturally, as humans, to see something wrong, you want to do something about it. So when you feel like you're defeated and you can't do anything about it, it's easier to pretend that nothing's wrong, because then you can convince yourself that, okay, there's nothing to do about anything, right? So that's why I feel like a lot of people are kind of conflicted right now, even though they are seeing everything that's going on. Like, I feel like most people really have seen that the mainstream media is just all garbage right now, even the people who've relied on it for years.
The only
But
thing
this-
with that is that things have changed now. Because the truck convoy, the truckers themselves, the people who were involved in the demonstrations, are considered to be terrorists. So now the whole picture has changed here.
Yeah.
Tamara Kinch, I think her last name is,
Mayor Lee.
and also Pat King have been denied bail.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what we read in the mainstream media is to make them look like criminals.
Yeah.
Now, they've been not just made to look like criminals, but they are now in the position, she was held in shackles, being brought into that courtroom. And the judge had to ask to have them taken off. Now, this is for all the action that they did was for freedom. Here we go. We're now into the freedom movement.
Yeah.
And these leaders who started it are in prison.
Yeah.
So what do you think now can change that for the truckers who are now in positions where maybe they don't have a truck anymore? They don't have anything to live on. Now, there's a lot of people who are out there who were hurt, who have been, charged. Where are they? Who knows? And how is this going to come back so that this convoy is going to not forget about the people who were participating in that and who are now made to be criminals and called terrorists? What do you think?
Well, my hope is that they'll get a real good judge who's on their side to dismiss it all.
But that's a hope.
That's a hope. You're asking a really good question. It's
Well,
a
what
good
can the
question.
people do now?
The people need to stand up more. We need more people to
Inform
show up.
yourselves.
Yeah.
Inform yourselves. Don't be silent. A lot of people are choosing to be silent because I know for a fact that everyone's seeing what's going on. There's no way that no one's seeing the truth at this point because it's out there. To the point where like even mainstream media can't hide it. They're even sharing the truth at some point. You know what I mean? Because we're sharing it first, so they have no choice but to respond, so they don't look like liars, right? So now that you're seeing what's going on, say something. You're not alone. We're all together. Do something. It's not like you're standing by yourself. People always say, "Oh, I can't change the world." You're not meant to change the world. We are together as a team and as a family.
Well, the thing about it is that we can say it because you're sitting around a table here free.
Yeah.
Now, there's people in jail right now
Yeah,
who can't
so-
get out.
I have a solution to this, okay? So this is the solution to standing up for those political prisoners because that's exactly what they are,
Yeah.
is political prisoners. Tamara, Pat King, Freedom George are political prisoners, okay? We're talking like something that happened to Nelson Mandela. And the way we can help them is keep showing up, keep being present, keep using those beautiful voices you have to speak truth, keep writing your MPs, your local council, keep doing the right things and standing up every single day. We need to start calling out the World Economic Forum, we need to call our MPs, and we need to hold them accountable. We need to ask them the easy question. Are you connected to the World Economic Forum? If not, bring it up in Parliament. We need to get to the bottom of the corruption in our country. Our country's been infiltrated. Over 50% of our politicians are bought off right now by these globalists, the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset. For God's sake, they sell a book in the bookstore on the Great Reset. They haven't hidden what they're doing. Trudeau's talked about the Great Reset openly. He's talked about how he loves communist China. They even have the Chinese social credit score system on the Government of Canada website. Like, it doesn't get any more communist than that and like what they're trying to do. And they're being very open about it. So we need to keep holding our voices. We need to keep showing up in a peaceful, loving way until we win our country back. And I'm telling you, this is not going to be an easy battle. This is a fight. You really think that they're just going to let go of power overnight? Absolutely not. That's why the whole country needs to stand up together. It doesn't matter. You know what? If you were to quit your job today, it would be worth it for the fact that you won't have a job, years down the road. Your children will not have a future down the road. Okay? There will be no life for us down the road. That's why this is our final stand. That's why I'm still in Ottawa, to hold the line, to be here with my brothers and sisters, and whatever happens, happens, but this is in God's hands now. Awesome.
Well, I think too we're talking about the ending of something. Well, not the ending. It's actually beginning another beginning of something.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And what do you plan on doing to carry on?
For my own self, I put a lot of my trust and faith into my higher power. So I try to follow my intuition. I'm getting better at it. I'm not the best at it, but I have a lot of faith and trust in Creator, and I want to do what's right, and I care about people, and I care about people's lives, and I care about the hard work that people have put into their lives, and even for my own self, it was only a couple of weeks ago that I realized that we really don't live in a democracy.
No.
And my dreams were shattered, and, like I've always wanted to, get into politics, and, like I always wanted to run for my nation and be a councilwoman, to run for chief, to take up a leadership position, and it just kind of got smashed being here.
No,
in
yeah,
Ottawa.
let's go on that.
No,
because
but that's
I-
what we
I-
have to do.
Because that to me is
Yeah.
an inspiration that
Yes.
you can't let die. And I was going to ask you, like, if you wanted to carry that out in such a way that it would affect not just your community, but could affect a whole nation, how could you do that? How could you envision doing that?
Some of the things that, like, some of the
In short.
okay, so some of the conversations that we've been starting to have here in Ottawa is having like a council, like having a council that's divided between like an elders council, a women's council, a men's council, a youth council, and having it in such a way that's kind of centered around the medicine wheel, where there's some balance and some structure, and it's representative of all people. And so this is some of the feedback that I've been getting from a lot of the elders here in Ottawa, and a lot of, our Anishinaabe and Mohawk leaders have been talking about as well. In addition to, like Big Bear has been a part of those conversations, and along with the Blood Tribe down in Calgary with Nate. And he's a huge inspiration too, like, like a good Indigenous Native male speaker. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping. And since I've been here in Ottawa, the other thing that I've been getting a lot of feedback from is from non-First Nations, and how they want the First Nations people to stand up and to rise and to take the reins from government, so that we can live in that type of a philosophy.
Well, that was what was supposed to happen in the first place, because that's what the treaty said, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
in our First Nations, if I can send a message out to our First Nations, we need to start standing up in leadership roles. I come from the Métis Nation of Alberta, and I very much plan on getting into a leadership role. We need to get rid of these career politicians that only care about the money, their payoffs, their backdoor deals, selling out their country. That's all they care about. Me.
Well, that's what they're defending.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot that stands behind that line,
Yes,
because they're all getting paid.
absolutely. It all comes down to greed. It all comes down to holding on to power. They've lost their morals of honesty and integrity, and those are the basic fundamentals of being a good human, is honesty and integrity. That's what I base my life off of. I let God guide my every step, with honesty and integrity, and I lead from my heart in everything I do. Anybody who knows me knows that. And these politicians, they've sold their souls, and they're career politicians, and we need to get them out, and we need to run for office. We need to start running for MPs, local council, mayors. We have to stand up as leaders together.
The thing is that that's easy to say, right? And very difficult to pull together, because as we can see, there's a big divide in this country now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
And I don't think people really think about how that divide came, because we're living in a culture, everyone, that's divide and conquer culture.
Exactly.
And I don't think we realize that.
I think as Indigenous people, as First Nations people, we know all about divide and conquer. We know all of those tactics that they use, and how they infiltrate and come into our communities and break up our communities.
And I think we forget that in this land, because how many, over 100 years ago now, maybe 150 years ago, they put smallpox in blankets
And blankets.
and gave it to our people.
And the exact same thing is happening right now. They're using the exact same method of giving the blankets with smallpox to the Indigenous. They're doing the exact same thing now. It's just in the new time. That's it.
And for
Same tactic.
Indigenous people, we weren't allowed to sell our fish, our produce outside. We couldn't sell outside the reserve, which cut off our economic stability, which they're doing right now to the truckers. So if people can see the strategy of it's comply or be punished in a system that divides and conquers. So there's certain perimeters that we all live in right now.
Yes.
And we're talking about right now about changing something.
Yes.
But at the same time, we saw what happened on that line when it came down to it. And what has happened in every place where Native people stand up for the land in here.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, how are we going to change that? So that, number one, I think we need to end with something that's going to help, first of all, the people who started this, and not leave them locked up in a prison and forgotten.
Yeah.
Now, what has to happen to help them? Because if they're just left and no one helps them, then I would say it's a weak beginning,
That's right.
Exactly.
right?
Leave the door open for them to do every single one of these.
Okay, or you can say it.
Yeah, I had a little something to say on according to how do we get out of the government control? You know, this is what we do is we detach from the government, from the corporate entity. We start building parallel societies away from the government. We start building our own healthcare, right? Our own educational systems. We take our money out of the corporate banks to take the money away from them. Always follow the money. This is one of the keys, right? And we start bringing the power back to the people.
But look what they did with the money from the truckers. They cut it off.
Yeah, they froze it, of course.
So they could do that to all Canadians.
Yeah.
Of course.
Exactly.
So that's why you can take that money out of the bank, you know, and we have to learn how to barter again. We have to learn the tribal ways, work as communities, help each other for the greater good, go off grid, looking for these green solutions to live off grid, right? Self-sustainability, growing our own local greenhouses in our own local communities, eating our own foods, supporting local businesses, not the Walmarts, not the corporations. We start to look after each other. And when we start to look after each other, we take the power away from the government. And, you know, there's going to be a good percentage of us that would do that right now.
And the way I see it too is like the vulnerable in communities, just like in Ottawa. You know, it was the vulnerable, the mothers with the children, you know, the elderly people stuck in somewhere, locked up, dying alone.
Yeah.
You know, so in that realm, you know, that to me is like, if you can't take care of that realm, your community, with your elders, with your children, you're in trouble. If you can't take care of your sick. So right now, we're in that position, like you said, there was nobody there to help. So now people have to really think about that, because the trust level has just gone down.
Trust in self and in others, right? Because traditionally, we've always looked after each other. We've always cared for each other. We always came together.
It's natural. It's part of humanity. And even you see that in Ottawa. We are complete strangers, most of us. Don't even come from the same side of Canada. Coming together and hugging each other and saying, oh my God, I love you, and crying with each other. On site. On just meeting someone. You know what I mean? And it seems foreign to us because they want you to believe that that's unnatural. They want you to believe that you should be focused and glued to your computer screens, wear your mask, no identity, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're taking the human out of humanity, and that's why their plan works. Their plan doesn't work if we become humans again, if we do what we're supposed to do as humans. And
well, it's interesting that it did make people more conscious of being human and of interacting, that isolation that they experienced drove them out, you know, to want to be engaged. You know, so I think we're at that point, the people who experienced what the good side, you know, but it still comes down to what to do. And what to do about those who are right now paying the price. Yeah. And I think, you know, that has to come into play.
Yeah. What I have to say about that is a lot of the things that they've done to us, even just by keeping Tamara and stuff like that, it's like fear tactics, because a lot of it doesn't uphold, right? Yeah. And if they continue with that, we are supposed to be scared and eventually give up, because look, our leaders are gone, we have nothing, and like, oh, that's gonna happen to us. But if we continue to play into those fear tactics, of course we're gonna break down. If we realize upon like first contact, okay, they're just trying to scare us. They know that those are the big guys, or at least they think,
they're
oh,
trying
we're
to
not
make
done.
an example
Exactly.
of them.
So they're trying to be like, oh, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you're gonna get if you do this. You know what I mean? And they're trying to show us that same thing, because we're still out here. We're not giving up, and they know that, right? And the stronger we are, and the more we stick together, and the less we feel like we have to give up, that works in their favor as well. Because
I guess
they
I was
can't use
looking
that.
for something concrete.
Yeah.
That can support that, you know, that it's not left dangling.
Well, they have a team of lawyers behind them. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
Tamara and Pat
for
and
sure.
Freedom George have a very large team of lawyers behind them.
Yeah.
And they have all the funding you could possibly think of, you know. But they've managed to keep things quiet. Actually, they didn't want people going downtown right after they removed everybody, because they want to get Tamara out. That's the kind of care that's being shown. People aren't openly talking about this too much because they don't want to. They don't want to threaten these people staying in jail any longer than they have to. But it's not going to hold up. It's a joke.
Yeah.
What they're charging them with, trying to overthrow the government, is a joke.
Exactly.
You know, we're just trying to get our lives back here. We just want the mandates dropped. You know, the digital IDs, the corruption with the World Economic Forum, all those things we just want to get rid of it, and we want to go back to living. We want to open up our small businesses. We want to pray. We want to dance. We want to love. We want to not fight with our families anymore.
And you know something, after it was finished, this is what they blamed the truckers for. That they were the ones who shut down everything for the people.
No.
And this is what they put in the media.
For 2 years, the whole world
was already
shut down.
Our
down.
government shut down our
They shut
entire
down.
country in the last 2 years, and we occupied Ottawa, a whole 4 city blocks where nobody lives. But we occupied, and they were under siege, and you know, and all this bullshit, right? And it was just.
So what do you do now when you launch off into out west back to Alberta? What are you going to carry with you, and when you go, and what are you going to, I guess, remember most?
I'm going to take the fight to wherever I go. You know, I can see that this is going to be a lifelong journey for me. I'm going to be holding voice for truth everywhere I go. I'm going to be using my voice, because our voices are powerful, and if we don't speak, nothing gets done. You know, but we still have to show just love and compassion. We're not going to fight a war here. You know, we're going to show people love, and that's what we do, is we lead by example. And we win people over that way. We win the people who don't believe in the Freedom Convoy. You know, we win them over by showing them who we truly are. Right? And when you show who you are, and you show your heart, and you show love, it's pretty hard to attack somebody, right?
They threw everything they could at them.
Okay,
They really couldn't stop it.
when I introduced myself, I said Desmond. I'm a reggae artist, and my artist name is Desi Ranks. DesiRanks, 2 names. I'm not gonna say I'm very popular, but I'm one of the only reggae artists that's singing or making music against what's happening. Almost every song that I put out since the past 2 years has been against what's happening.
And where could they find your music?
My music it's on all download platforms, Spotify, iTunes. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. I have a song that was just released 1st of January. It's called Evilous Plan, and the first verse is dedicated to the Indigenous. It says, remember what they did to the Indians. Cut their population 100 million. Remember, it's not history, it's his story. Right? So, and it's his story.
It's his story.
It's his story. It's not history. It's his story. It's what they tell us
Yeah.
that they want us to believe,
Yeah.
and so we could go down this road.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, even when they were locking up people on the front lines, they took them, and what they would say to all of them, they would ask each one of them, "We can charge you. You're gonna lose your business. You lose this, lose that, or we give you a ticket, or whatever." And most of the guys said, "Give me a ticket." They took them 20 minutes down the road and let them out. And the ones who said, "Okay, I'll agree to whatever," they told them not to come back to Ottawa. So it was all fear tactic that they were doing.
They were dropping people off.
That's what they were doing. Yes.
My business partner got dropped off 12 kilometers outside of Ottawa in minus 20. They drove him out in the middle of nowhere and dropped him off 12 kilometers and just, they arrested him, they beat him up, they arrested him, drove him 12 kilometers outside of Ottawa, dropped him out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. And then he walked all the way back to Ottawa. Sorry, I don't mean to be laughing, but he's a trooper, man.
Yeah.
He was actually laughing about it when he got to the hotel. He says, they dropped me off in the middle of nowhere. You know, and you want to talk about humanity? If he would have died out there in the cold, you know, that would have been murder. And this is this is something, a tactic they used to use against the Indigenous when they were drinking in the towns. They would pick them up and they would drive them to the outskirts, you know, and they would drop them off. And a lot of them died from hypothermia, you know. So that was shocking. That was really shocking to see.
I wanted to share one comment from Vix Puracy. She says, or they say, "Love you guys. Together we are changing the world."
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's a really good way to end, because I think you guys really helped to
I'm
do
gonna
that.
read this for you. This is how
Please.
when I was in Hamilton before I came to Ottawa, I was seeing a lot of stuff that was happening. I got tied up and I couldn't make it on some of the days. And getting my message out to the world is either through music or poetry and stuff. And during that time was when they started to saying they were going to come for the kids from the truckers. I'm getting emotional just talking about it because it was I did a poem and it went viral on social media because of what was happening. I'm going to read it for you. It's called "Don't Touch Our Kids." It says, "You can take our fuel or take our food. Send dirty cops to change our mood. We shovel your streets to keep them clean. We feed the homeless and you call us thieves. Well, the head of the stream is dirty we see. Only one thing we ask is to be mandates free. We have driven the miles while some flew the skies. We have come here to talk while you hide in disguise. We are one people who want to live strong and live free. And the whole world is watching while we protest peacefully. We hear the word is out that you're coming for the kids, but we will defend them if it's the last day we live." That's my reason. I have 3 kids that were born here, and I will die. And I'm serious. I will die.
Well, you're looking at somebody who was taken when I was a kid. So we know all about what it is to be taken.
Yes.
And that's what I felt when I heard that threat to those parents, to come and threaten to take your children. You know, it comes right back again to how Indigenous people have been treated in this land. And so now we come full circle to Canadians being treated in the same way.
And I want to let the world know, we're going to fight for Indigenous rights all across North America, South America. You know, we're 110% behind, you know, getting clean water across Canada for our Indigenous, the reconciliation, missing murdered Indigenous, you know, and we're going to stand next to you guys to the bitter end, you know, brothers and sisters. We need to help out with all of our issues. It doesn't matter what culture you come from. We all have to take care of each other. We need to unify, and we just need to show love. And it's time to come together. They've kept us separated too long. So We love you all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you. Good.
So I wanted to, if you guys wanted to like share your links, we'll put it on in a bit. I want to apologize for the sideway recording. I'd like to say thank you to everyone for speaking and sharing your thoughts and sharing your words. And thank you to Audrey for helping me co-host with Real People's Media. And thank you all. And I'll see you guys in our next interview.